Hey everybody!
Hey!
Welcome to the vlog. We're a little shaggy. I'm just back from a trip to New York City.
He's a little shaggy.
I'm a little shaggy, yeah, my hair's messy. So, yeah.
Today we have questions about storytelling and kind of the art and science of storytelling. So we're going to jump right in because we're a little pressed for time. So, our first question is, I have a question about storytellers. I know that in a sense they control the game, but the last ones I've talked to have been assholes or jerks and they make it not fun for the players. Do you have any tips on being a good storyteller so I can give my friends a good game if I run one?
That was a weird, like, talking about something and then asking a question that was unrelated. Kind of. Like, I see how it was related, but then it wasn't really. But I do want to comment on it. I don't know if those storytellers are actually assholes or jerks. Like, we've been through this before, where when someone gives, like, a one-sided point of view comment on people we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because we don't know what it is that they're doing that is upsetting you, or whether that's something that, you know, is something that's part of the game. Because storytellers do have to, you know, they're the people that have to make the calls, and that's a hard job sometimes. Or maybe they really are jerks, but we don't have any way of knowing, so...
Yeah, I think what's more important is that they're probably playing one way, and you obviously want to play in a different way. And so the important thing is to find people that want to play in the same way as you. And as both an ST and a player, like, you should be looking for people who have the same interests as you do towards storytelling and cooperative storytelling and game playing and that kind of thing. So what that filters in for when you want to be a storyteller for your friends, to make sure that the friends you choose for the game enjoy the same type of gaming and storytelling, or at least are willing to meet you halfway and kind of like enjoy it together. And
yeah, and as the storyteller, if you're going to run a story for your friends who you want to spend time with and have a fun time with, if you're running a game that none of them want to play, that's when they're going to all feel like you're kind of a jerk, the same way that you're feeling about your storytellers right now. So you're going to kind of have to not only find players that want to play the way you do, but also be willing to play the way that your players want to, because not everybody's going to have the same style ever. Like, you're never going to find a whole group of people that always do everything the same way. And so it's kind of, it's a lot of learn by the seat of your pants. You're going to have to actually storytell some and, you know, do some sessions and kind of get to a point where you start to see what it is that they're enjoying, what they're not, and, you know, what things you're enjoying. And maybe you'll find out you don't like storytelling and you don't want to do it anymore, but you won't really figure anything out unless you actually do some of it, probably.
Yeah. And the other thing is, wait, no, it went away. I had something. And it was...
No, it's gone?
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay, well, sorry about that.
No, what were we talking about with the thing?
We were talking about
We're just with the...
meeting your players halfway.
Meeting the players halfway.
Maybe you find out you don't like storytelling, but you have to try it to find out.
No, that's what threw me off.
Oh.
What was before that? Meeting the players halfway. I should have just interrupted you.
You probably should have. Now people are just leaving now.
I know. You can't leave. We're going to say other things later. No, it's gone. I'm sorry. Oh, that's what it was. The actual question was, how do I be a good storyteller for my friends and players? And that is an impossible question to just answer. Like, that's reams and reams and reams of notebook paper. It's a lot of time to kind of explain all of that. Hopefully, if you're watching this over a long period of time and reading our blog, that should help you. But or
at least it'll help you with the way that we like to storytell. But if your players don't like that kind of game, then that's not going to help you that much. Again, John is going to sneer at you because all players should play the way we play, obviously. But if your players don't like that, you're going to have to find your own style. And, you know, the more you talk to other storytellers, the more you can get an idea of how things go on that side of the table. But it really boils down to you're going to have to go do it. And you're going to have to be sensitive to your players and what they want to do, as well as what you would like to see if you were in their place.
Boom! Question answered.
Bam. So our second question today, somebody says, I just started STing a Scion game for new players. It's the first time I've ST'd anything. But my characters chose Scions of Andarta, Baron, Samedi, and Thor. Do you have any suggestions for what to do with that situation?
Classic problem.
You made the critical mistake of letting them do whatever they want.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to not... to ST wealth in general is you can't let people just do what they want because it won't mesh.
It's not. I mean, it's not always true, but in this case, because you didn't give them any guidelines. So what we usually do at the beginning of a game, and we go, okay, there are these 5 pantheons. These are pantheons you can make characters for, and that prevents this kind of thing from happening, where these characters have nothing in common.
5 is a lot. I suggest 2 or 3. 5 is way too many.
I think we ran with 4 our latest game. But
no, that was 3.
You added any, Nuna?
I added them after everyone made characters, so no one could pick them.
I don't know if that counts as adding them, though.
Exactly. That's what I said.
You do. It's not that you want to say, oh, I don't want to let my players have options or do the things they want to do, but you have to be aware that anything they choose, you're going to have to be prepared for. So if you're not ready to deal with something like this, then you want to narrow the field.
And when we say deal with, what we mean is write a good story for.
Yes.
And make those characters mesh together.
Because these guys are going to be in a band that is running around doing stuff together, so their stories are going to run into each other.
Yeah, you're going to need some virtues that work together so that they're not constantly fighting on all 4 fronts in the virtues. You need them to have similar... There's a whole bunch of starting a campaign stuff. Again, you're asking a gigantic question. You're not really. It's just getting into a gigantic question. Yes. But at the beginning of a campaign, there's a lot of things you have to take into account. And a lot of that VST needs to happen before you let your players make characters. It doesn't have to, but you're making your job a lot easier if you do make it happen before the players make characters. You're in a situation where apparently it's too late.
Yeah, so since you've already...
Also, you asked this question like a month ago, so
yeah,
hopefully
really
you're playing in your game already.
So
specifically the question, Andarta, Thor,
Baron
Samedi.
Yeah. So I would say off the top of my head, your Scions of Andarta and Thor are going to get along better with each other than
I would say
Baron Samedi.
Really get another player.
A 4th person would help round this out,
a
especially
4th person that's like an intermediary-ish or a...
Yeah, somebody who is playing another Loa or a Pessajet or somebody that kind of can be kind of a go-between between. You've got 2 like courage loyalty monsters who are going to make dumb decisions here, and then you have 1 harmony person that is not going to like any of their dumb decisions.
Yeah.
And so, and then you have pantheons behind them that are the same. So you're going to have the Norse gods, blowing shit up because that's what they do, versus the Loa who are trying to maintain the balance of the universe. It's going to be a mess.
Big mess.
Yes. And these are 3 gods that have basically nothing in common. Baron Samedi and Thor probably like each other. They're both really charismatic, but their cultures that didn't really overlap much. You could have had.
And Andarta likes bears.
Yeah, she likes bears and shooting things, so that's not going to be real compatible with anybody. You could say she had some interaction with Thor, theoretically, because the Gaulish pantheons, Celtic spread across mainland Europe, could have run into the Germanic tribes at some point. But that's the only place I could see those cultures really interacting. And, the guy who's African in origin isn't going to have anything to do there. So what you may need to do is what we ended up doing for our very first game, which we did about the same thing. We said, pick whatever you want, and then we ended up with Aztecs and Norse and Loa.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
very first game was just
Aztec and Greek. It was Greek. And so we were like, okay, well, these don't have a lot to do with each other, especially the Aztecs. So what we ended up having to do there is say, okay, we're going to have to write some backstory meta plot where the parents of these kids have gotten together and have something going on behind the scenes.
I have a huge post about that somewhere in the backlogs, it's like 100 pages or something. So we don't want to get into it now, but if you want to go look at that post, I think it answered a similar question, and it maybe would help a little bit with this. But you have dug yourself a hole of difficulty for yourself. It's not a problem, it just needs more work and time from you.
Yeah, basically you're going to get to write a story that the players don't even necessarily know about for a long time, if ever, that explains why Andarta, Baron Samedi, and Thor know each other or have some connection, or why their kids are going to be hanging out together. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's that they're cooperating a lot, or that like one of them is an enemy of the other 2 and they've teamed up against them, or that they're all working on a same political plot, or they're all trying to get their kids to get to the same goal. It doesn't really matter, but what matters is that they have to all have some connection in some way. Mm-hmm. And so since they don't have one that they're coming with out of the box because they're completely different cultures and different gods, you're going to have to come up with one as the storyteller. And then you don't have to tell the players, but you'll have it in the back of your head so that you have it to build the story off of as they do things.
Yep. Boom. Third question.
Boom. Third question. How do you keep gameplay interesting as a storyteller once characters have reached the limits of their power and they can't buy any new skills? Is playing a character that can't grow anymore in terms of purviews going to be something that makes playing that character less fun?
Okay. If at any point when you're storytelling you say, well, it's okay, it's interesting because they're getting new stuff, you have failed. they're kind of set up to get new stuff as they go along and get experience, and it is a game versus a not game. So they are getting new stuff, but you can't. You don't have to worry about that when you're making the story. You should be worrying about crafting a good story and getting plots going and bringing themes and other literary techniques in and like making a good story that they're going to enjoy. The leveling is something that's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, they're always going to enjoy that. It's fun to get new powers and try new stuff, but when you reach that point, the important thing is that they need to have a story that they're interested in. They need to come to this game saying, there's cool stuff my characters want to do, or there's cool stuff that I want to find out, and then that's what they're going to be coming to be interested in. Because if they were just coming here to level up, they can do that at home with a computer game. Mm-hmm. They don't, the part of the interaction of a storytelling game like Scion is that you're actually writing a story. So as long as you're still writing a story that is interesting and that is cool and that they don't know ahead of time, then they're still going to be interested in most cases, even if they can't get anything new at all.
Right. But what you're actually asking is more a question about there is a mental block a little bit for players who come that there should be a reward. And I think that's so intensely ingrained that it's hard to break. And so what you're actually asking is how do I kind of keep my players going with that in mind? Yeah, how do I reward them in different ways? And that's more talking about a differential reward system.
Yeah, and I mean, there are lots of things you can do in-game that are rewards. Like, if you know a character has certain goals, like them getting to achieve those goals is, a reward, even if it's not a tangible kind of one. Or, you always have birthrights or fancy relics in the game that maybe, you don't want to use them all the time, but once in a while, a character gets a new fancy relic, and, that's exciting, and that's a reward, even if it's not something they bought with XP.
What I think, though, is if you're looking at just Legend 12 and the fact that a character has bought everything, what you want to do is you want to sit down when they hit Legend 12 and say, how much story do I have left to tell? With these characters in mind, they should be probably, at the end of Legend 11, closing up a lot of storylines. And, stories don't last forever. So you want to, around then, be figuring out an end goal. And it could be, a year down the road or 2 years down the road, or let's say 50 sessions down the road, or whatever kind of idea you have for that. Make sure there's ways for all the characters to wrap up their stories in meaningful and important ways, and talk with the players and make sure everything they want to happen through Legend 12 before the final. Figure all that out, and then guess how long that's going to take. And then over that period of time, give them exactly enough XP to get to the things they'll want, and no more.
Yes, you do. Because you're the ST and you're in charge of the XP scale, you can always be like, okay, you're Legend 12 now. You guys are getting not a lot of XP per game, which means it'll take you a long time to buy things, but those things will be that much more precious when you get them.
Right.
And since they don't have a lot of them, they're not going to feel like, oh god, I can never get anything I need, because they already have most of the things they need.
When I redo avatars and ultimates, which is in our poll, so if you want to vote on that at some point. Is it on there?
Actually, it's not this time.
Oh, okay. It'll be on there at some point, yeah. It's something I'm working on because we have people getting there. And because I don't like what they do in the books, and I have a lot of ideas that I think can make it a lot better and a lot more fun for people. But when I do that, I think I'm going to raise the cost a lot to give people a little more flow in there. So, yes, you could get the ultimate, or you can get, like, the 5th and 6th epic of something else if you want to round out a little better. Probably like 5th, 6th, but so I think you could raise the price of things if you don't want to lower the XP, because sometimes, again, that's a mental thing players have where they're like, I'm not getting rewarded. So it's a simple psychological thing. We're just changing the numbers, being like, it's really powerful, so it costs a lot more. But you're still getting the same XP.
Yeah.
It's a psychological thing where they won't feel as bad about it.
Yeah, it's not actually different, but it makes people feel better to get 10 XP than 4 XP. So, John said something really good, which was that stories all have to end sometime. I mean, once you get to Legend 12, that's not necessarily the end of the game, but some players will feel like it's the end of the game. And once you've run out of plot elements, it needs to be the end of the game, because otherwise you're going to be limping along, not telling a good story anymore, and that's actually not fun.
It's important not to limp along. So if the question was from someone who's in a Legend 12 game and he's like, well, I got nothing left to do,
Yeah, it's not really a problem with you have too many powers. That's a problem with this story isn't engaging me anymore.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, like John said, you want to, you know, ask them what stories do you want to, what goals do you have. If you have stories as the storyteller that you want to continue telling, make sure that you have plans for those. And then you know where they're going to end. And sometimes they'll go longer than you think because a player will come up with a new goal or a new thing they want to do, and then the story will move on and do that. But if it doesn't, then you have a plan for where it's going to end, and you can kind of go out with a bang and leave people with good feelings. Because we've all been in that game where it goes on too long and nobody's really having fun anymore, but you keep coming kind of out of loyalty, or you keep coming because you wish it was fun like it used to be, and that's not great for anybody, and you end up not being as happy about that game as if it had just ended on a good note when it needed to end.
Yep.
So as a storyteller, just be aware that what you're looking at is not that they're out of powers to buy, but that you're looking at, are they really enjoying the story still? And if they're not, then it's time to take it to a graceful death and then start something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or, what I find good is start something new while taking it to a graceful death. So you have like a transition period.
Yeah. So then they don't have to, I mean, they'll go through the mourning stage of being done with the game, but they'll have something else to be doing too. Like,
yep.
You know, whenever our Legend 10 game finally ends, which is probably a long time in the future, they're also playing a game that's hero level right now, so it's not like they're going to suddenly be going cold turkey off of not telling stories anymore. So,
yeah. All right, well, that's everything.
That was 3 questions.
Thank you for watching. Most questions, vlog successful. It helps us out if you subscribe to the vlog on YouTube.
Yeah.
You will notice that, like, you probably watch it through our website. And just click the embedded video file.
Yeah,
but if you actually,
but
if you actually go to YouTube and you click on subscribing thing here or over there, maybe it's up. I think it's actually right.
Yeah, it's probably like
there.
Right there.
Yeah. So if you can just do us a favor, go to YouTube and subscribe on there. That would be super helpful.
Yep.
Yep.
And then next week we will talk about something different.
Yep.
And you'll be subscribed.
Boom. Thank you.
See you guys later.
Bye, everybody.